All right, guys, so thanks so much for joining me today for this presentation. I just put together this video presentation to serve as a quick tool to navigate the meditation process for Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, and to kind of help you have a little layout of all the tools that are available out there, especially for folks who are just getting started. The good news is there is a ton of information out there for people that are really wanting to get into this work and transform their lives. So I'm hoping that this can serve as a good breakdown of what I've used as a new student of Dr. Dispenza and what's been helpful for me and what might be helpful for you. I do want to give the caveat that this presentation is specific to Dr. Dispenza's teachings. So there's all kinds of meditations online. You'll find some that are for, removing addiction, some that are for like work-related stress, some that are for helping go to sleep at night. Dr. Dispenza's meditations are actually geared toward evolving and changing your brain and bringing out like a new state of being in your brain and your consciousness. They are for manifesting realities that you would like to see, like healings or material manifestations. And they're also used for getting in touch with the quantum field and the divine and having mystic transcendental experiences. So that's what these tools are specifically for, are for his meditations. But before we get started, I just want to talk a little bit about who I am. I am an average person. I'm not a spectacular meditation guru or anything by any means. I actually got involved in Dr. Dispenza's teachings about a year ago. My mother-in-law kept talking about him, and she would rave about his works. And finally, after hearing enough from her, I decided to check out one of his books, which was Are the Placebo. So I read that one and I just thought it was absolutely incredible material, and I quickly read the other books. I downloaded several meditations, and in last July I started the work. That is not to say that I've been doing it for a full year or a perfect student. I actually fell off track in the fall and I was derailed for like a good 6 months. I just kind of had life coming at me and I wasn't sticking with it. But I did get back on in May, kind of after COVID hit and the quarantine came down. I decided it was a good time to kind of take control of my life again and be a creator. So I got back on board and I've been meditating every day at 4 a.m. Consistently since May. So I'm coming up on 70 days at this point, and I really do love the results that the meditations are bringing. And by the way, I have other videos that kind of document my journey on the same channel. This is the Taking Flight YouTube channel, so if you want to check out other videos, they're on here as well. But let's go ahead and get started for this brief overview of the tools that are available to help you start your journey with Dr. Joe's meditations. As you'll see up here, there's a couple things we're going to touch on. Basic equipment is just like the setup and logistics of the meditation. Apps and software is a section that talks about the different apps out there that can just aid you. They're not mandatory, but they're optional and they're helpful. And then the other tools talk about just a wealth of other tools and information that are available for you to kind of enhance your experience and to learn more. So let's get started with looking at the basic toolkit that you need to conduct your meditations. And drum roll, it's actually really simple. You only need a phone or a media player. You need headphones, eye mask, and a quiet special place. So that's the great thing. It's not a whole lot to be able to do this work well. So let's start off with the media player devices discussion. What you'll notice is in some of Dr. Joe's writings, he does provide written meditations, so you could either kind of memorize the steps or you could read through them if you don't have access to the recording of the guided meditations. But I highly recommend using the guided meditations just because there's so much like planning and thought and design put into them in terms of even how Dr. Dispenza says certain things and the words he uses and the spacing of the words, and the music is phenomenal. So I really recommend the guided meditations. They're available for download, or you can purchase a CD on his website. So assuming that you're going with these guided meditations, you need a media player. A lot of people just use a phone or a tablet. I use my phone. You can use a CD player. Like I said, you can go online and get a CD of many of these meditations and do it that way. Or you can even use your computer, provided that you have really long headphones, or you have like a Bluetooth set of headphones where you can kind of listen to it remotely. That brings us to headphones. Headphones are a critical part of this meditative work, and the reason you can't just simply play a meditation and have it playing over a speaker or a boombox or something is because you can't minimize external stimuli. So when you sit down to do these meditations, you really want to stay focused. So headphones are recommended. The great thing is they can be very cheap, like $5 to $10 at a convenience store, or they can be expensive. So there's a wide range of costs out there, and if you want like really highly engineered headphones, you can go for it. You can get those too, but cost shouldn't be a barrier for getting this item here. One consideration that's super important, guys, is make sure they're comfortable, because you're going to be sitting for like an hour. I've been meditating 2 hours lately, so you'll be sitting for a while. You want to make sure that they're not like binding or itching you or anything like that. And again, make sure that those headphones are effective at isolating noise. The reason this is so important is because external stimuli keep us connected to our body, our environment, and time. So those are the big three, as Dr. Dispenza calls them. And these stimuli keep our frontal lobe of our brain engaged and kind of like working and in those like higher brain waves, like beta brain waves. And then that makes it difficult for us to lower our brain waves and slip into the autonomic nervous system to change our brains. And that's such an important part of the work. So make sure that they isolate noise. And then another thing is, imagine that you're, meditating, it's nice and quiet outside, and it's 4:30 a.m. and you're about to connect with the field. All of a sudden an ambulance goes by, right? So you really don't want anything to be able to kind of break your concentration. So headphones are an important part. And along that same vein, an eye mask is also important because, again, it blocks out those external stimuli. So when you pick one, make sure that it's fully light blocking. These can also be cheap, like $5 to $10 as well. You want to make sure it's comforting. So you don't want something that's going to be itchy or going to be pushing on your eyes or anything like that. Like, you just want to make sure they are nice and comfortable. And another cool thing is the eye masks actually can be specialized too. So the one shown below is actually an eye mask that's provided on Dr. Dispenza's website, and it has symbols on it. So if you know Dr. Dispenza, he's very attuned to the importance of symbols for the creative process. The one shown here is the Eye of Horus, which is an important symbol for mysticism and knowingness, and then is also referred to as the third eye. So there's a lot of cool options out there for your eye mask, but you definitely need one. And finally, you are going to need a quiet, special place. So when I mean quiet, I mean just what we discussed. No external noises or distractions or anything like that. And there's only so much that a headphone can block out. So just make sure that you have a nice quiet place that's conducive to meditating and that you're in a comfortable seated position. You don't want to have any kind of weird angles or anything like that. And you also want to make sure that it's isolated. So you don't want like your kids busting in the door, or your spouse, or your pet scratching on the door. You just want to make sure that you can fully concentrate. And for those who are space restricted, I'll tell you my personal story. We live in a very small house with 2 bedrooms, and we actually had a roommate at one point where I didn't have a private space to meditate. So for a while, I meditated in our tiny little smart car. And you know what? It checked all the boxes. It was quiet, comfortable, isolated, and it was perfect. Another couple things you want to think about when choosing your meditation space is be consistent with the same space and make sure that there aren't any emotional triggers there. So you might not want to meditate like on a kitchen table with a bunch of latex documents on it, or in your office with some piles of work around, because those things will trigger you emotionally. And you definitely don't want to meditate in bed. Your body associates your bed with sleep. So if you sit up to do that meditation at 4, guess what? Your body's going to want to go right back to sleep because you're in bed. So just these are some things to think about when you choose your place to meditate. I personally use the couch in my husband's office. This obviously isn't the couch, but I thought it was a cool picture. I like it because it's quiet and it just is a nice place I can use consistently. So that takes us through the basic equipment that you need to get started on your meditations. Like I said, it's not a whole lot. The next part I want to talk about is apps and software that I've used for the meditations that are helpful for me. So these are optional. They're not advocated by Dr. Dispenza per se, but I found them to be helpful for my meditative journey. There's 2 apps that I want to talk about. The first is a good media player app. So A media player app is really good because you can download the meditations at drjoedispenza.com directly into your media player app, and as soon as you get them, you can also download music from there, and you can create playlists. So you can kind of customize your routine. You can pick your own music, you can control the duration. So it's really helpful. Let's check out this video here to learn a little more about the Google Play app that I use on my Android phone. And if you have an Apple phone, you'll probably end up using iTunes. But here's what I use. Okay, so the first app I want to record today is Google Play. I have an Android phone, so that's kind of the default music player for my phone. If you have an iPhone, it's probably going to be iTunes. The reason I think this player is good to have rather than just like some other players that don't let you make playlists is because you can make playlists. One of the two types of playlists I have that you see on the screen on the left here is the top left one is called Raising Energy. The bottom left one is called Dr. Dispenza. And so the Raising Energy playlist is songs that I typically play to kind of prime my brain before the meditation. So it's really cool because these songs can be whatever you want, whether you like, jazz or classical or something like that. I have a song in here from Superman, a song in here from some like electronic. There's piano music I like, a lot of Barry Goldstein. Barry Goldstein performs a lot of the music that Dr. Dispenza uses in his meditations, and you can download this music from Dr. Dispenza's website. There's one from Beauty and the Beast, so it can really be anything. Dr. Dispenza encourages music that is kind of like mystical and without words, and music that just kind of invokes an emotion that's a high emotion, like love, or inspiration or something like that. With this music, I usually use it to do the special breathing that Dr. Dispenza teaches you, where you push energy from the lower 3 energy centers up to the top of your head. You won't always need this music because some meditations will have a precursor breathing that goes with it. So there will be a track that's called Breath, and it's like 7 minutes of breathing, and then you go on to the meditation. But I like to use these sometimes even if there is breathing before, just to kind of get my energy up and get my heart, activated. So once I get my music picked out, I go ahead and I add that to the queue. So let's say that I don't have anything in my queue yet. I'm like, oh, I want to hear this one. I usually do this the morning of, and it just takes like 30 seconds. I'll pick that one, and then I usually like my tracks to be about like 7 to 10 minutes before I perform the meditation. So I just click on these, add them to my queue, and great. Now I have 2 songs in my queue of about 7 minutes to kind of like let me breathe and get into the meditation. Now I go to my Dr. Dispenza meditation playlist, and these are different meditations that I've downloaded from Dr. Dispenza's website over time. So I kind of like to work through one of these each day of the week, just because it kind of keeps it fresh for me and it kind of mixes it up. So there's some on here that are reconditioning the mind, is what I do on Monday. Tuesday is tuning into new potentials. Wednesday is body part space. So as you can see, there's different meditations for each day, and I like that. It just kind of keeps it fresh, and it mixes it up for me. So let's say whatever day it is, let's say it's a Thursday. That means I'm going to be on the Blessing of the Energy Center meditation. So I'm going to add that to my queue. Then I'm going to go to my queue, and I can see, great, I have my music lined up. I have my Energy Center meditation ready to go. So now all I have to do is put on my eye mask, put on my headphones, click play, and then the rest kind of unfolds on its own. So whether it's Google Play or it's iTunes, it's really nice to have some kind of software that lets you build these playlists and kind of get everything lined up nice and neat before you actually do your meditation. Because what you don't want to happen is you're in the meditation, your song's done, you're like, okay, let me open my eyes, let me go out, let me click the next meditation. You just want it to kind of be seamless and streamlined. So another app that's been super helpful for me that I like to use is the Loop Habit Tracker. I like this particular app because it's gratifying, it's fun, and it gives you a little bit of accountability for really building up that habit that you're trying to build, because let's be real, getting up at 4 a.m. every single day to meditate isn't easy for most of us. So this really kind of helped me track that habit and get it into being an actual habit. So let's check out this app. You can find it on your Google Play or your iTunes store. It's free. And this video here is going to explain a little more about how it all works. All right, so the other app I want to talk about is the Loop Habit Tracker app. Again, it's not really endorsed by Dr. Dispenza, and you don't have to have it. It's just I like it because I think it's a neat little app that's kind of gratifying and fun, and it kind of lets you stay accountable to the habits you want to track. This is the main screen you're going to see when you click on it, and as you can see here, it can be any kind of habits that you try to build. I have my diet on here, and I try to do like a weekly fast, and obviously I'm not doing so well in my exercise, but the top two you'll see are the Dr. Dispenza meditation, so that's just for me to check off whenever I actually complete a meditation. And then the second one is that I meditate at 4 a.m. Last year when I was doing this in the fall, I was actually really struggling to get up and do the meditations. So these two are here and I try to track them. So whenever you have the habit set up in your app, you can click on it, and the really cool thing is the analytics that this app presents. So you can see actually when I talk about falling off the bandwagon, you can see it right here in this chart, how last year when I started doing this work in July, I was really doing well in August, and I fell off in September, and I started getting into the gym, and I just completely bottomed off through the remainder of the year, and I didn't pick it up again until May after COVID had hit and I was quarantined. But it's really powerful. You can even have a calendar view that kind of shows you when I started doing the work here, and look, I taper off, and I did one last little effort in January and just kind of completely fell off. And then here we are today. I picked it up and kind of stayed consistent ever since. Another neat view is your best streaks. So when I started doing this last year, my best streak was 50 days from July 30th to September 2019. And now my best streak is going on 70 days from May 11th to today's date, which is July 18th. And I intend to continue on for a full year. So I like this. It's just some neat analytics, and same thing, you can click on any habit you're interested in. You can see that last time I tried doing the 4 a.m. meditations, I was not consistent, but this time around I've been very consistent with it, so that's pretty gratifying and cool to see. And then if you track your meditations or your habits, you can actually go in and put some widgets on your phone. These are just little buttons that are useful that link to it. So when I get up and do my meditation, for example, I check off the meditation at 4 a.m. Yep. And then I check off the blue one for, yep, it was a full meditation for Dr. Dispenza. And that's just really cool because I can kind of monitor my progress and see that I've been doing a good job with that. And then you'll also notice that these little calendars here, they kind of fill in too when you check something. So it's just a neat little visual way to make sure you're kind of staying on top of the work. I really like it. And again, it's a free app. You can download it on your iTunes store or your Google Play store. So those are the two apps that I really enjoy using. They've been super helpful for my meditative journey. And if you guys have come across anything else that you like, please, I would love to hear about them. Feel free to share it in the comments. But these are two that have been helpful for me. And we're going to conclude the presentation with other tools that are available for Dr. Joe's students. Now, these helpful tools are just the ones that I have found personally. There's a ton of tools because Dr. Dispenza's work keeps growing, the student body grows, people get creative. There's videos like this, there's just so much information, but these are the ones that I have found to be helpful. So as we all know, a classic phrase of Dr. Dispenza is, knowledge is the precursor to experience. So the more that we can gain that knowledge and get access to it across a variety of different media, whether it's books or visual or tangential experience, it's a great way to kind of solidify the work that we're doing and really gain a deeper, richer experience. So the first tool I recommend is Dr. Dispenza's books. His books are absolutely phenomenal. They're just a wealth of information. There's diagrams, they're very user-friendly. The latest book he wrote was Becoming Supernatural. amazing read. I really recommend reading it. And he actually has 4 books out. There's Becoming Supernatural, You Are the Placebo, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and Evolve Your Brain. They're all great books. You do not have to read them in order. And he has tons of articles out as well. You'll find that he's a really prolific writer. So there's so much information you can absorb in written format. I definitely recommend his books. Another tool is YouTube and social media. So Dr. Dispenza has a really great social media game, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Even YouTube is really helpful as well. There's tons of content on the YouTube page. So let's check out a clip of what is available. So Dr. Dispenza's YouTube channel is great. It's just Dr. Joe Dispenza. And what you'll find is there's a ton of information on here that's super duper helpful in video format. The first category you're going to see are interviews, and these are interviews with all kinds of other outlets and interviewers, other people who are doing this kind of work. They're short interviews and there are very long ones, so there's great information here. Testimonials are excellent. I highly recommend watching these. These are great. Some of them are from conferences, some are from just, one-on-one testimonials, and they're excellent. They're a great source of motivation if you're wanting to continue to do the work. The Q&As on the YouTube channel are super helpful too. They're from real people, just everyday people like us, and the answers are very interesting along with the questions. You'll also see videos about the other books that he's written specific to those publications if you want to learn more about them. And there's some clips from lectures and presentations as well, and some movies he's featured in. So I really recommend this channel. It's just a treasure trove of information. The next thing I recommend is the advanced workshops. Now, I haven't personally gone to these. I really want to, and I'm actually working on manifesting one in my meditations. But these I hear are just phenomenal, and they are one of Dr. Dispenza's biggest passions, is because he collects a ton of great data here, and he also sees just miraculous things at every workshop, and he gets such great feedback. The great thing about these workshops is they're 1 full week, and they are actually held all over the world. So if you're not in the same country as Dr. Joe, no worries. He typically holds them monthly all across the world. If you're interested in learning more about when and where they're being held, you can go to drjoedispenza.com, and under the events section of his website, there's a listing of all the workshops, like the dates and when they announce a new one. This is also where you're going to want to go to register for these workshops. If you can't do the advanced workshop, next best thing is an online progressive workshop. So I actually attended this one last year when I was starting my meditative process, and I really enjoyed it because the online progressive workshop is basically a 9-week online course that's self-paced. So there's a lot of different modules you can click on, and you can do it at your own pace, at your own leisure, and it's just a lot of just great information that kind of supplements what you are going to learn in the book. And there's something about like just seeing it live and seeing the Q&A sessions, and Dr. Joe does a lot of neat diagrams on like a whiteboard, so it's super duper helpful. I recommend it, and it's available in multiple languages, which is great. And in fact, if you're going to attend an advanced workshop, this is included in the fee for the progressive workshop. It's rolled in, and it's actually required that you attend this because it gives you a lot of precursory information that's going to help you for the advanced workshop. So I highly recommend, especially during these days when we may not be able to get out and do the in-person trainings. It's a really great program. So another tool available out there is Dr. Joe's newsletter. This comes out regularly, and the newsletter just is chock full of all kinds of interesting information. It includes articles that Dr. Joe writes, there's interviews, there's interesting quotes and events that are coming up, and it's just a great way to stay kind of plugged into the community and be in the know for what's going on. Another tool is Dr. Joe Live. That's fairly new, and it's really cool. It is a 1-hour call once a month that Dr. Joe does, and it's a live call. So they're either going to be themed to a specific topic that Dr. Joe wants to speak on, and some of them are just live Q&A calls, which are pretty cool because they just choose the questions randomly, and Dr. Joe doesn't know like what's going to be asked, and he just kind of answers on the fly, which I think that's kind of fun. It costs $9.99 a month, which is a pretty user-friendly entry point, and I just think it's, again, another great way to stay plugged into the work. There are, of course, other online tools as well. If you go to drjoedispenza.com, you can find them. There's a number of other, YouTube videos like this one. There's just a wealth of information. If you just kind of start searching on Google, it will pop up, and it's just amazing what all is out there. Another tool that I recommend is the Mind Movies. Now, again, I haven't personally used these, but the Mind Movie software has been used in Dr. Joe Dispenza's workshops. It is a visualization tool that is a powerful tool to kind of help you see what you're trying to manifest. So if you're working on healing, it's a software that might help you conjure up pictures that represent that healing to you, because symbols are so powerful for visualization. And they actually work really closely with Dr. Joe. They're very familiar with his teachings and vice versa. And the couple who created this software has a really great story about manifestations. I recommend this software. I'm going to look into it myself. I think it's a great resource for those of us who are trying to manifest something in our meditations. And finally, I recommend the HeartMath Institute. The HeartMath Institute is just a research institute with an enormous amount of heart-brain coherence research. They work closely with Dr. Joe, so they get some of his data and he collects some of their data for his findings. So they're very attuned to one another. And I just recommend this tool because you can actually go to their website and you can purchase a heart monitor that monitors your heart coherence throughout the day. Now, I haven't done this yet, but I've looked on their website and there's a lot of different monitors available and software, so there's a bunch of different options for you. But I think it'd be a great way to kind of get feedback. So like, say you do meditation, you have a really great experience and heart coherence is just off the chart, right? That's kind of fun. So it's kind of gratifying for all the work that you're doing. And it's, again, a way that you can kind of document and chart your own progress without having to attend an in-person event. Or maybe if you're unable to be mobile, these are other alternatives for doing your own sort of research from your home. So in closing, as we discussed, there's a ton of tools and information available out there. It's so exciting to see new things coming up every day, new tips, new resources, new students with great content. It can be a little overwhelming, and I hope that that's not the case here. I hope that this is able to serve as a roadmap for getting started in the information out there. My biggest suggestion would be to start with the basics and just kind of do the meditation work. By no means do you have to kind of dive into everything all at once. I know I sort of dipped my toe in. If you want to go all in and you just want to gobble up as much information as you can, more power to you, that's awesome too. But the biggest consideration, perhaps the most important part, is just getting started and then sticking with it. And of course, if you fall off like I did, you can always get back on. So anyway, thank you for joining me. If you have any questions or comments or disagreements even, please feel free to put them in the comments section of this video and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I appreciate the feedback and appreciate you guys joining me. Be blessed.